Hello and welcome to the Kintsugi Moto Podcast. So a good friend of mine was looking to buy a classic BMW motorcycle, something like a pre-1960s /2 or something along those lines. And he asked me, he said, is it a good time to buy one now? Because he's like, I thought the prices might come down due to the slowing economy. So I thought for this episode, maybe we could discuss the investment opportunities that might become available during an upcoming recession. Whether we have one or not is up for debate. But let's talk about why 2023 might be a good time to invest in a classic motorcycle or classic car. So with inflation continuing to run seemingly out of control, home prices and home equity are starting to drop due to the increase in interest rates, and it sounds like we're hearing about layoffs almost every day. It really seems like a recession is on the horizon. I don't know if it's going to be as large as the recessions we experienced in 2008 or 2020. I'm not really sure. But what does seem likely is that the collector car and motorcycle market are likely to soften. And that may be a really opportunistic time to jump into the market. So you may be asking, why buy a classic car or motorcycle? Well, let me just give you a few reasons why I think that investing in a vintage car or a motorcycle is a wise decision. First of all, classic cars have a history of performing well during economic downturns. So when people are looking for alternative investments, they often turn to our tangible assets like a classic car. Because they tend to hold their value well over time, often because investors really consider, what I'll call blue chip cars, like your Ferraris, your Aston Martins, and then on the motorcycle side, like Ducatis, Nortons, Vincent motorcycles, to be safe haven investments. So in times of economic uncertainty like we are in now, people will look to these tangible assets that can hold their value, and classic cars and motorcycles are great examples of this. So if we look back at the financial crisis of 2008, classic cars held their value much better than any type of investment like stocks and real estate. So, and then another factor to consider is the supply and demand of classic cars. So by their very nature, classic cars, rare, valuable, supply is limited and often dwindling, right? Because they're not manufacturing anymore. As a result, when the economy is weak, people tend to hold on to their classic cars instead of selling them. What this means is that the supply of classic cars on the market decreases, driving up prices. But really, I think that only holds true for the higher end of the market. So like your Concours, D'Elegance, and Pebble Beach and Amelia Island type cars. Those cars people will hold on to. Again, I don't think there's going to be a dip at the ultra high end of the market. So the $1 million cars will likely continue to be strong because they're more, as I said earlier, more of an investment vehicle, pun intended. Similar to like fine art, which is used by really high net worth individuals to diversify their investment portfolio. So really what I'm talking about is sort of the average weekend show and shine car. So like the MGBs, the Carmen Gias, Datsun 240s, that range of cars. And usually these cars tend to be traded, within the average collector who might work on the car themselves rather than sending it out to get restored by a professional shop. So down at this end of the market, I think an economic downturn causes people to seek cash and try and get rid of any of their forgotten or abandoned projects. So people, maybe they need a little extra cash to put food on their table. They may part ways with a treasured car, not only due to the age, but also because, they tend to be older cars. They weren't as economical as modern day cars. So they tend to be gas hogs and not driven much. But still, gas prices are high. So if you want to drive it, you're going to pay more to operate it. And also, even if you don't drive it much, it's still taking up space and you still have to insure it, right? So I think as family budgets start to tighten, cars that were tucked away in storage units, maybe hidden under boxes in the garage, I think those will start finding their way to Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and OfferUp. And then on the demand side, I think the typical buyer of these cars, also your average car enthusiast, they're also going to be facing some of the same recessionary pressures. So they're not really going to be out on the market looking to buy something. So even those who are retired, those who have the most time to spend working on these projects, and the ones that are most likely to buy them are usually on fixed incomes. So I think these cars might start to show up on the market, and then there'll be some downward pressure on these prices. So just to recap, so with the supply of classic cars increasing down at the lower end of the market and the demand for them decreasing, I think the longer a recession drags out, or the more that we have economic uncertainty, I think prices will continue to drop. So without getting too technical, there's what I would call a lot of elasticity for the price of collector cars, and especially motorcycles, I think are even more elastic because motorcycles are not the primary form of transportation for most people. These are, classic motorcycles are driven strictly for recreation. So unlike the cost of gas, which is considered inelastic, meaning people will continue to buy gas no matter how much price increases up to a point, but really, changes in price of gas doesn't decrease the demand for the need for gas. So I think people are going to start to pass up on buying more classic cars as they become more available on the market. All right, so now, okay, hopefully I've convinced you that it's a good time to go out, buy a classic car or motorcycle. What should you buy? Well, there's a couple ways to go about it. I think you can either purchase a classic car or motorcycle that's already in good condition. Somebody that's already put a lot of work into it, and buy somebody else's cherry, they always say. And then you hold on to it a few years until the economy recovers, and then you can resell it and then make a little bit of a profit. And I think that's a great option for people who have some extra cash in their pocket and have the ability to make an upfront investment. Another way to invest in classic cars and motorcycles, and this is the way that I typically do it, is to purchase a fixer-upper and then kind of work on it and fix it and restore it yourself. I think this is a great option for people who enjoy working on cars and motorcycles like I do, and have the skills to do so, or like me, are willing to do so. So, I'm a certified YouTube mechanic. I've learned everything I know on YouTube, and I'm hoping to share some of that information with everybody else. But also doing it this way, I think it's more affordable because you don't have to put up a lot of capital up front. You can kind of spread out your costs over time. And then arguably, I think it's a more fun way to do it because you're going to become intimately familiar with every car or motorcycle that you purchase, and then you're going to learn a lot more along the way. And again, if you buy a fixer-upper, you can really spread your cost of ownership over time. So as you slowly fix things up, you can continue to save up and then purchase parts that you need, maybe one or two at a time, fix those things, then save up some more, and then get a few more parts, and then fix things up, and so forth and so on. And before you know it, you've got a fully restored a collector car or motorcycle. So, what does this mean? Well, if you happen to been wanting to get a Porsche 914 or maybe a BMW E10 to work on, and you have the budget and the space, then I think in the next few months might be a really, really good time to go out and do a little bit of bargain shopping. Overall, I think the classic car and motorcycle markets continue to grow, at different rates, of course. But over the long term, I feel like it's been a good investment. Maybe not as great as real estate, but also maybe not as volatile. And I'll argue that investing in a classic car and a motorcycle is a lot more fun than investing in real estate. But let me point out there are a few risks associated with investing in classic cars. The first is that the economy may take longer to recover than anticipated. So what that means is it could cause the value of classic cars to stagnate or even decrease. Secondly, classic cars and motorcycles are often bought and sold based on emotion. So taste, desirability, collectability can and will change. This is especially true with the motorcycle market, which seems to, again, like I said earlier, has greater volatility in prices. Additionally, classic cars, they require maintenance, space, which I mentioned before, upkeep, and all that kinds to add up and can become expensive. And finally, really the market for classic cars can be a little unpredictable sometimes. So that means that the value of your investment could fluctuate based on factors that are completely out of your control. So, I'll cover this more in a future episode, but here are just a few quick tips to help you out if you are really thinking about trying to get a classic car or motorcycle. First, I think it's really important that you need to do your research, understand the market for the particular model of classic car or motorcycle that you're interested in. This means looking at sales data from either Hagerty, NADA, any of those online resources. Understand the trends, and then get a sense of what types of car or vehicle are really in demand. Second, I think it's important. I think this is really important. You need to set a budget, and then you need to stick to it. I think it's really easy to get carried away when investing in classic cars. So it's really important that you stay within your means and avoid any type of financial strain on you or your family. And then finally, I think if you buy what you like, it doesn't really matter what the market's doing. Classic cars and motorcycles are a piece of history and rolling works of art that you can drive and ride on and really enjoy. And then, potentially make a profit. And that's just, I think, a fringe benefit. So buy what you like, and I think you can't go wrong. Do you have a classic car or motorcycle that you purchased as an investment? Please share what you purchased and why in the comments. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening. Hope you'll consider subscribing, and we'll see you again in the next episode. In the meantime, keep the rusty side up and the leak side down.